The one thing that we've learned, Heather, on this podcast is that everyone who has a story about them getting into gambling generally starts somewhere in childhood.
I definitely learned how to play poker with my grandparents when I was very young, for pennies at the kitchen table.
Oh, when I was a kid, I think it was $2, Heather. I think that was the most I won in that particular horse racing event. Is it inappropriate if you only tip if you're up, Heather?
Anytime the player tips, we are very appreciative of that.
The 3 dice football that was at O'Shea's. I'm on a bandwagon. We need to bring that game back. Heather, ask your audience. They'll know. Okay. 3 dice poker or 3 dice football.
Yeah.
But any games like that entice more action and excitement in the way that craps does.
Yeah.
So I would just love to see something that kind of breaks the mold. Like I would play War before I would go play 3-card poker. We went out to Vegas last August. He had first a crap simulator and then a roulette simulator on his phone. And I kid you not, hundreds of hours practicing this.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Heather, thanks for having us on. I'm Peter, and this is my co-host,
Ryan.
It's great to be on with you. We've been hosting a podcast of our own covering sports and casino gambling for about a year now.
Gambling with Good Juju.
Gambling with Good Juju is the name of the show. And we've been gambling ourselves for, the one thing that we've learned, Heather, on this podcast is that everyone who has a story about them getting into gambling generally starts somewhere in childhood. You would think it would be 21 when it's legal. No. Most stories start somewhere in childhood, as do ours. And that's kind of the sense of the podcast that we have as we go along. We're covering kind of our journey in sports gambling. When we started the show, we thought we were very informed, intelligent sports gamblers. and what's happened over the course of the year has been kind of mind-blowing to us, both in what we've been able to learn and what we've been able to share with guests throughout the course of the conversation.
Awesome. I recommend everyone who's watching to go and check out your videos, your podcast. What is your YouTube channel, and do you have a website with your podcast on them?
So goodjujubets.net is our website. It's where you can find all the details. Where the podcast is, of course, on Spotify, Apple, etc. And our social accounts are at Good JuJu Bets.
Awesome. Cool. I think you guys brought up a great point, and I think it would be a great way to start this segment. In childhood, how did you guys get started with gambling?
So I definitely learned how to play poker with my grandparents when I was very young, for pennies at the kitchen table. And my grandpa, he had a couple little handheld slot machines and poker machines that he'd play while we were watching Westerns. And so, it was definitely always around. And then quickly it rolled into grade school parlay cards, for football season, etc. So, and then even ran a little, makeshift casino in my friend's basement for a while. So, to say I've been around gambling for a long time, to say the least, for sure.
Yeah. My first experience gambling, I was 8 years old. My parents took us on a vacation up to Chicago. I've got 4 older brothers who are much, much older than me. And we went to Arlington Racetrack. That's a horse racing track in the Chicago area that's quite famous and now shut down.
R.I.P.
Owned by the Chicago Bears. And I got to go up to that window. I got to hand my brother the money. I got to tell him what horses I wanted. And it was the greatest thrill of my life, trying to determine whether or not that horse would finish in the top 3. I was a kid. I was scared to bet him to win a race. So I only bet him to finish in the top 3. And by the end of that day, the teller was familiar enough with me that she would let me give her the money directly. And from that point on, I was completely hooked.
That's hilarious.
I've been running an NCAA tournament basketball pool for 25 years now, something along those lines. And we started off with daily fantasy. And once legal sports gambling came to Illinois, we took it from there.
Yep.
Oh, I bet you guys were so excited when it became legal.
It was.
Oh, you have no idea.
We don't want to call it life changing because that sounds too degenerate, but it was a big deal.
It's lifestyle changing.
Oh, I've seen Degenerate. I doubt you guys are anywhere close to that. No, I get where you're coming from. I want to know, what was the largest amount you won when you were betting on the horse racing?
Oh, on the horse racing, I don't think I've ever. Well, I would say it was
Mystic
this year,
Dan.
Kentucky Derby. We took Mystic Dan.
When you were a kid.
Oh, when I was a kid, I think it was $2, Heather. I think that was the most I won in that particular horse racing event.
And I bet you were so excited about that.
I think my parents let me bet $10 total the entire day. I think I was able to go up and bet $2, and I'd pick horses that would give me like an even payout.
Oh, that's
and I won a couple.
So you learned the slot machine, the whole theory about the slot machine thing, where you put $5 in and then you win $2, and it does the lights and the sounds, and you won. You're a big winner. Wait a minute, didn't I lose $3? How does this work again?
Keep playing.
I fell hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was so we talk about the endorphins a lot. Like we like to chase the endorphins on our show, and that first experience to it, and I've been hooked on it ever since.
I bet you were so nervous.
Oh man, I was giddy. I was
Yeah.
I was a little kid. I was very hyper, Heather.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Perfect. The horse racing is perfect then, because you have a lot of room to run around and a lot of excitement.
Absolutely.
That stuff. So my question is, as someone who is a seasoned gambler, I would love to know the answers to these questions. When you sit down and you play at a table game, what inspires you to tip the dealer? Like, is there something that they do in particular? Is it a vibe? Like, how do you decide, hey, I'm going to tip this person or not?
Yeah. You want me to start here?
You go first.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to play a number of table games, and it's a little bit different between the different games, right? So when I'm playing craps, I will typically always tip when I'm shooting, like with me playing, right? And then as I start building my bets up, and I start getting to like the middle of the board, I'll start doing the hard ways. Then once I get a couple bucks on a hard way, then the dealer starts getting a couple bucks on a hard way too. And then I always typically tip at the end of my session of craps as well. Blackjack is a little different. I like to tip basically as a bribe, I call it, when I need a little change of luck. So that's how I decide when to tip while I'm playing, and then at the end of the session as well.
Do you always tip even if you're down?
Unless it is like, I got nothing. I try to save at least a couple readies for the dealer, for sure.
Is it inappropriate if you only tip if you're up, Heather?
Anytime the player tips, we are very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Do you give the dealer the tip, or do you play the tip for him?
So I try to play the tips like during my session, and then I tip typically at the end of the session, just like, here's for the toke box, right?
Yeah, the toke box.
Yeah.
And
What's
how
the
much
preference
for
what's the preference for the dealers between playing with them or just tipping the cash?
every dealer is different. If you
Okay.
ask the dealer if you want them to play or to just give it to you, the casino requires the dealer to answer, can you just give us the money and that's it, don't play it for us. And the reason why is because if you play it for the dealer and you win, when that dealer takes the money and puts it in their toke box, that money's gone. The casino can't give it back. So it's lost money. If the player wins money, like let's say if the player wins a lot of money and they win big, the casino's fine with it because they're like, as long as we keep this person in the chair and keep them playing, we'll get all this money back. So with tokes, it's like lost money and they don't like that. So they tell dealers, just drop it and don't play.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. So I'll tip on a heater when I'm down. So if I'm down and I get on a heater and I'm still down, I'll still throw a tip if I'm going on a heater. But generally I'm if I get going, we all get going kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I'll tip as we go along when I'm up, and then I'll definitely always tip at the end of the session if we're up, or if I'm even around even. If I'm down, it's kind of a bummer for all of us in my mind.
Yeah, heard that.
Including the dealers.
Right.
And how do you decide how much you're going to tip? Is it just $1? Is it $5? How do you make that determination?
It depends on what I was gambling at, but for the most part, it's generally a rounded off. At the end of a session, it would be a rounded off number based on how much I brought back. So if it's a good now, I'll round to a bigger number. If it's a good number, I'll round to a smaller number. If it's a smaller number, but I'll round based on that.
Yeah.
So are you saying like if you have a 50-cent piece, you're rounding it to $1?
No, it's higher than that. I wouldn't be rude.
Oh, okay.
Like it would be like, if you walk away up 20, 30, let's say you walk away up 30 and you got a 25 and a $5, I'm going to throw them the $5 and walk away with the 25 chip. If I walk away up, 250, well, then maybe I'm throwing them a 25 chip or something like that. It just kind of depends.
Okay. That's pretty generous. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, so I've haven't tried this yet, but I've heard like you can, in essence, like just like tell the dealer, like at blackjack, hey, here I got $10 and another $5 on top for you, and then just like exchange this through the process. Like, have you ever seen that done before?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is parlaying. So you are not allowed to parlay the tip for the dealer. However, there is a way around it, and you just explained it. Instead of tipping the dealer, putting the money out. So if you have the chip here and you put if you have the chip here and you put the tip out here, you can't parlay it. If you put their toke on top of the money, you can parlay it. However, it is still the player's money. So it is actually pretty risky for the dealer to do it this way, because if the player parlays and they win and parlays and win and parlays and win, there's nothing stopping the player from like saying, hey, it's my money, I'm taking it, go screw off. They don't get it because it's their money. So there is a bit of a risk. But because you can't parlay your tokes, that is one way to kind of like sidestep that rule.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to try that next time.
We can't stop being interviewers.
Hey, I got a question for you, Heather.
Yeah. Sorry, we're taking over.
Oh, no, I just hope you don't mind this going a little longer than, what I said.
No, please.
What are you looking for in a dealer?
I look for a social personality if I can try to spot it.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. Normally, let's be honest, at most tables we're looking for an open spot.
I definitely like I try to feel out the vibe of the dealer, and I don't try to get more talkative than I think everybody wants. But I'll be social. And then a big thing to me at the craps table is that 2 or 3 passes in, they figured out what I'm doing, and then we can kind of just jive there a little bit. Not that I'm the most complicated craps player, but they should be able to figure out what I'm doing pretty quickly.
And then, so for our viewers who are casino game inventors, what kind of new games would you be really excited about? What do you want to see? Like, is there anything that you're like, God, I wish they would do a game like this, but they haven't. I would love to see this.
Well, I mentioned on our podcast, but the 3 dice football that was at O'Shea's, I'm on a bandwagon. We need to bring that game back. Heather, ask your audience. They'll know. Okay. 3 dice poker or 3 dice football.
Yeah.
But any games like that entice more action and excitement in the way that craps does, I know you talk about like space being a problem and complicated rules and things along those lines, but I would love to see some more variation in terms of an out of the box thinking. When I walk down the line of Carnival games right now at a casino, they all look pretty similar to me.
Yeah.
So I would just love to see something that kind of breaks the mold.
So does that mean poker style games don't wet your whistle?
How many of them we got to have?
Yeah.
I've never played Mississippi Stud or Caribbean Stud or any of that stuff.
Like I would play War before I would go play 3-card poker.
Oh, 3-card poker is kind of fun.
I'm just saying. That's personal.
So out of the carnival games that are really normal in casinos, the ones you see everywhere, 3-card poker, high card flush, ultimate Texas Hold'em, 4-card poker, casino war, which games do you really enjoy playing?
So out of those style games, I prefer 3-card poker and ultimate Texas Hold'em. And again, like I said, I haven't played all the stud games, but it kind of makes you feel like you're playing poker and like you're really not. And there's like a built-in jackpot, which is more fun. Especially if you're playing with people that don't gamble a lot, like they're not going to understand the grind of a dice game or blackjack necessarily. So it's a little bit more social with casual gamblers, I think.
Yeah. All the traditional ones don't really do it for me. If I'm looking across the regular set, the one that stands out in my mind the most was when I played War. I mean, none of them of the traditional ones are going to be ones that I go to instinctively, but all the ones that, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before. That looks interesting. I think I would be a trialist, Heather, of carnival games more than I would be a one who plays steady an established game.
So if you see a new carnival game, are you immediately there trying it out?
That's my personality. Yes, I would definitely be there trying to laugh about it, trying to talk about it, trying to figure it out, trying to, have fun with RJ talking about it and being like, what's going on here?
Right.
And just the fact of getting to talk about it with the dealer because of its newness and excitingness would bring an element of intrigue for me.
And I think I'm quite the contrary, where it's like I would need 5 hours on a simulator and like read the whole article on Wizard of Odds before I'm even sitting down.
Wizard of Oz is such a wonderful website. It's so wonderful. I can't say enough good stuff about it.
Absolutely. I love it.
We went out to Vegas last August. He had first a crap simulator and then a roulette simulator on his phone. And I kid you not, hundreds of hours practicing this.
I mean, that's a great way to save money.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Practicing at home.
He did lose less than me. Good job.
There you go.
So does this mean you guys have tried all of the casino games? Big Six, Pai Gow Poker, Baccarat, everything?
I have not actually played Baccarat.
I haven't either.
That's the one we are interested in. We have a friend who loves to play Baccarat. If you ever check out a podcast, The Better Life, Tim Lawson,
he's
great.
Oh,
yeah. He talks about Baccarat a lot. So that's probably the one I haven't. Most of the others, yes, I played.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I actually did a few hours on the simulator on Baccarat, and I'm like, I still am not gonna sit down and play this.
What don't you like about it? I'm just curious.
So the rules are really complex, right? Like all the different numbers, and you got to know what they are. And I'm petrified I'm going to sit down, and especially at our local casino, like I know the newbies deal Baccarat, and I'm just so afraid they're not going to do it right, and I'm not going to win or lose, and I won't know how to correct it. That's what's really keeping me from doing it.
And I just realized I need to revise my answer. It's no longer War. You brought up Pai Gow Poker.
Oh, yeah.
I have very strong memories of Pai Gow Poker from when I was a fresh 21-year-old out in Vegas, too poor to properly gamble, being told by everyone if you just sit at a Pai Gow poker table, they'll feed you drinks for hours and you won't really gain or lose any money. So
yep.
Carnival games. Shout out Pai Gow Poker, taking care of a poor, broke college kid
Yeah.
way back in the day.
Kind of the unsung
Yeah.
hero of the casino, Pai Gow Poker.
Well, it's so wonderful because every single hand it's like push, 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 push. Oh, hey, I won one.
Yeah.
And it's actually just like what you described. It's a poker game, so you're playing poker, but it has these really large payouts if you play the fortune bonus and everything. You could get, I think it's up to 8,000 to 1 on it, and everything. It's really amazing. And so, yeah, I was wondering if you played that.
My goal was to play it for about 8 hours straight, lose less than $100, and walk out of that casino with my fill of beverages.
Nice.
Maybe a breakfast comp.
There you go, breakfast comp.
For Baccarat, it's a lot easier than you think. I know it seems really complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is really, really easy. It's a fun game. Well, that's pretty much it. I kept you guys over just a little bit, but thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you for answering my questions. And can you tell the audience one more time how they can find you or follow you on social media?
Yeah. So our podcast is Gambling with Good Juju. GoodJuJuBets.net is our website, and the social media is at Good JuJu Bets.
And our episode with Heather will be live on Thursday of this week. I don't know when yours goes live, but we're really excited to be introducing Heather to our audience as well. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you so much. Yeah, by the time this comes out, that will already be out. So please go check it out, watch it on there. Also, too, we are going to have all of these links in the description below. So that way, just go to the description below, click the links, check them out, follow them. They're awesome. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Good
Thank you,
Juju to your
Heather.
bets.
Have a great night.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.